The feeling of regret, anxiety, or guilt that a consumer experiences after making a purchase, especially a large or impulsive one. I think it's safe to say that this is something we've all experienced in the world. However, in the world of cycling, this can be so much worse. There can be so many different standards and compatibility issues, you don't know what to buy, and you can be left with a big bill and a useless piece of equipment. So I've put together a list of the 5 things you can go out and buy that you won't regret. Number 1 is shorter cranks. Now I've actually got my old cranks here. These have come off my bike. I now have 165mm cranks on the bike. I used to have 170mm cranks. That might not sound like a big difference, but let me tell you, if you've got tight hips, you've got knee pain, it's definitely worth trying. You've probably already had somebody suggest it to you, most likely a bike fair, but trust me when I tell you, it's worth giving a go, and here is why. First popularised by the likes of bike fitter James, and seen on the pro bikes of Tadej Pogacar and even Dylan Johnson, I reluctantly folded and followed the trend and got myself some shorter cranks. There have been a couple cases of iliac artery syndrome in the pro peloton, and me being me, I became a little bit overly conscious of this, and I wanted to reduce the stress on my hip joints. So what have I noticed since moving to shorter cranks? Well, I've got an improved range of motion in my hips. I don't get that tight feeling over the top of the pedal stroke. My knees are a lot happier. I ride at maybe 5 cadence higher than I would do otherwise. So although I wouldn't say it's the magic bullet some bike fairs make it out to be, it's definitely worth trying. And most importantly, you're not going to be left with buyer's remorse after trying this one out. Number 2, we've got something a bit more budget friendly. There is nothing worse on this earth than cold hands. I can distinctly remember those Saturday morning club runs I used to do as a kid. I had arm warmers on my legs, a £10 Aldi jacket, and no gloves. And we'd be riding in hailstones, rain, Scottish weather to really see what you were made of. Now that was maybe character building, but I don't think it's necessary once you get to a certain age. So if you keep suffering through winter with cold hands, this is the one thing you need to get. And it's going to cost you less than a takeaway pizza. Now I've tried some pretty expensive gloves over the time, as I personally hate having cold hands. I think it's actually dangerous when you can't get a good brake feel. I've tried the likes of sealskin, some top-end Castelli gloves, but nothing beats this one suggestion from a coach back in the day, which is a set of scuba diving gloves. Now these are 3mm thick scuba neoprene gloves. There's some cycling companies that have made these gloves with a different palm print. It gives you a little bit of better feeling on the handlebars and potentially a bit of extra padding. But I personally find that the stitching on these gloves fails after 1 or 2 winters anyway. So the fact they only cost £15 and you can replace them each winter means that these are a winter essential. This is coming from somebody who lives in Scotland and rides all year round. If you do not have a pair of these gloves, you are suffering unnecessarily. Once you get a pair of these gloves, you're not going to look back. You get a bit of heat built up in these gloves, warm even below 0 degrees. Just make sure to replace them if the stitching does fail in between the fingers, as that's where the air gets in. Once the air gets in, they're done, no good. And if you're watching this video and you're going, this guy lives in Scotland, he's been over the top. I live somewhere it's much sunnier, maybe you're in Australia. Well, I was in Spain on a training camp. It was 25 degrees at the bottom of the climb. I was riding with my mates. By the time I got to the top of the climb, it was 9 degrees. As we start descending down, it rains. None of us had gloves. We were all in ultra thin summer cycling jerseys, and we got so cold, none of us could reach the brakes. Now, we managed to get down safely, but if it was any colder, we might have overshot one of those corners and it might not have ended so well. So since that day, I have carried a pair of these when doing big climbs, even in 25-degree Spanish weather. And I might even have a video of hailstones in Spain in the summer when it was 35 degrees the week before. Now, number 3, carrying on with the bad weather clothing suggestions. I wouldn't say that these are an essential in the summer. I'd actually say if you wear these in the summer, you need your head checked, because even in Scotland, I've never personally worn these beyond probably April. And it's these, a pair of Spats overshoes. Now these, if you've never seen these before, you might be thinking, what on earth are these? Again, made in neoprene. These are essentially welly boots for riding the bike. These are fleece-lined winter luxury. You get yourself a pair of these, they run from your foot all the way up to your knee. These will keep you warm in the absolute coldest conditions. But once you get them, you're going to be wearing them probably up until spring, just because you like having warm legs. I've worn these in some late autumn rides and I've come back with sweaty calves. They keep you that warm. And that's pretty disgusting, and holding them this close to my head, I can tell you they stink. But I would not go without these in Scottish winter. If you buy a pair of these, yeah, they're a bit more expensive than the neoprene glove suggestion before, but you are not going to regret them. And I think, to be honest, you're going to be a convert and you won't ride without them. There's not too much more to say about these. They're well made, they're pretty durable, and to be honest, I think once you get a pair, you're not going to go back. If you like riding your bike and you don't like being cold, get yourself a pair of these. Number 4 on the list. You might be thinking, Hamish, where's the prop for number 4? Now, I don't have a prop for number 4, so I'm just going to put some B-roll in here of me riding the Turbo Trainer. You might be thinking, Turbo Trainer? This is a winter purchase. A Turbo Trainer is only ever useful in the winter. I'm here to tell you that's not true either. The Turbo Trainer is an essential bit of kit all year round. Even if you have spats, even if you have neoprene gloves, there are still days it is simply not safe to ride outside in the winter due to ice and other road conditions. But for me personally, an unpopular opinion, I think you should be using the Turbo Trainer all year round. The additional heat stress that you get from riding a Turbo Trainer can lead to plasma adaptations, therefore lead to increased red blood cell count. So I'm telling you, you're basically getting the benefits of an altitude camp without needing to leave the house. But the number one reason you should be using the Turbo Trainer all year round is the most unpopular opinion I have about training, which is that most people are simply not fit enough to be riding out on the road yet. If you have a Turbo Trainer, you can set on the Garmin the exact wattage you want to be sitting at. That paired with a properly done fitness test means you can train in exactly the right zone to get you the maximum gains as quickly as possible. I even do it myself. I'd consider myself a well-trained cyclist. I still sometimes need to ride the Turbo Trainer because it is too windy outside and I need to ride at a lower power. So if you get yourself a Turbo Trainer, you can make sure you're making the biggest gains as quickly as possible by staying in exactly the right zone. No spiking for climbs, no freewheeling on descents, exactly the right zone all of the time. That is why a Turbo Trainer is an essential bit of kit. Right, number 5, something all cyclists love, and it's supplements. I know the suggestion is not that you should go out and spend hundreds of pounds on supplements. I know as cyclists we all like getting something for nothing. That's not what I'm going to suggest on this list. I'm going to suggest, if you haven't already, go out and get yourself a private blood test. As with everything in this video, I'm not being paid by anybody. I wish I was, but I'm not. I went out and got a private blood test with MediChecks, and it checked a bunch of nutritional deficiencies. And I can personally tell you, if I'd had a MediChecks test earlier, I may have picked up on my chronic illness that I have a little bit sooner. And if you haven't found out about that, then you can go find out all you need to know about my illness and my diagnosis in my very first YouTube video. If you haven't seen it, go and check it out. It's really in-depth and you might find out something interesting about a rare condition that I got diagnosed with. If you've been following along in this list, then you will have heard about heat training. And if you've heard about heat training, then you know the benefits that come with it. However, when you're sweating that much, inside a garage, inside your house, inside the training room, you're going to be losing iron in your sweat. If you're losing iron, you need to be replacing it. So there are definitely benefits to supplements. Supplements can help you, but a supplement is never going to help you as much as knowing what you're deficient in. So if you haven't already and you're taking supplements, and I know most of you are already taking supplements, and you're already spending money on supplements, go out, get a blood test done, know what you're deficient in, and then you can do supplements properly. So if you like this list of videos, make sure you go check out my last video, 5 more things I wish I bought sooner in cycling. And if you want to find out about how private blood tests helped me get my diagnosis, then go and check out my very first video on CVID and how plasma impacts my daily health. Thanks for watching.